Late May 1945. Rural Midwest, United States. Warm wind moves through tall corn rows. A tractor engine idles near a wooden fence. In a farmhouse kitchen, a radio plays news about victory celebrations across Europe. Church bells ring in distant towns. The war, at least on paper, is over. But in some American fields, former enemy soldiers are still working. German prisoners of war bend over crop rows under guard supervision. They repair fencing, load hay, fix irrigation pipes. Most are waiting for transport back to Europe, back to a country that many now fear more than the war itself. Rumors spread quietly across prisoner barracks and work crews. Stories about Soviet labor camps, stories about destroyed German cities, stories about prisoners disappearing into Eastern Europe and never returning. For most prisoners, the future feels uncertain. For a small number, a dangerous thought begins forming. If Germany is gone, and if the future is unknown, maybe survival means staying exactly where they are. To understand why some German prisoners even considered hiding inside American farmland, the story has to begin months earlier, during the final collapse of Nazi Germany. The collapse and capture. By early 1945, Germany is losing on every front. In the east, Soviet forces push toward Berlin. In the west, American and British forces cross the Rhine River. German supply chains collapse. Fuel is almost gone. Command structures fail. Units fight in isolation. Entire divisions surrender not because they choose to, but because they cannot fight anymore. By spring 1945, Allied forces are capturing German soldiers in numbers never seen before. Temporary prisoner enclosures appear across Western Europe. Open fields surrounded by wire, guarded holding zones filled with thousands of exhausted soldiers. The logistics quickly become overwhelming. Feeding, guarding, and housing millions of prisoners inside an active war zone drains resources from the final push into Germany. The United States makes a major decision. Many German prisoners will be transported across the Atlantic to prison camps inside the continental United States. The reasoning is simple. The American mainland is safe from combat. Infrastructure exists. Food supply chains are stable. And moving prisoners reduces pressure on European front lines. By the end of the war, more than 370,000 German POWs are held across the United States. Camps are built across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and many other states. Most are located in rural areas, close to farmland, far from major ports or cities. Life inside these camps follows the Geneva Convention. Prisoners receive food, medical care, and shelter. They can be assigned non-military labor. Agriculture becomes the most common assignment. Inside camps, daily life becomes structured. Wake-up calls, roll checks, meals, work details, limited mail contact with home. Many prisoners are surprised by food quality compared to late war Germany. For American planners, prisoners are both a responsibility and a resource. Millions of American men are overseas fighting. Farms are short on workers. Crops cannot wait. By 1944 and early 1945, POW labor becomes part of the American agricultural system. The farm labor reality. Since 1942, American agriculture has struggled with labor shortages. Women enter farm work in higher numbers. Teenagers are recruited. Migrant labor expands, but the gap remains. German POW labor helps fill that gap. Prisoners are transported from camps to farms under guard supervision. Work schedules are predictable. Morning transport, field labor, lunch, return to camp by evening. Many farmers are uneasy at first. These are enemy soldiers, men who fought under the Nazi regime. But labor shortages leave few options. Over time, routine changes perception. Many prisoners are young. Some are teenagers drafted late in the war. Others are older reservists. Most are exhausted. Most just want survival. Language barriers create awkward moments. Then adaptation begins. Farmers learn basic German words. Prisoners learn basic English commands. Work becomes the shared language. Some farmers provide extra food during harvest. Guards sometimes allow limited conversation if rules are followed. Prisoners see something shocking to them. American towns untouched by bombing, stores filled with food, schools operating normally. At the same time, letters from Germany describe a completely different reality. Cities destroyed, food shortages, refugee populations moving across ruins searching for family. Inside camps, rumors grow stronger. Some prisoners believe they will go home quickly. Others hear they will be used as labor in Europe. Some fear transfer to Soviet control. Even when American officials promise Geneva Convention treatment, uncertainty creates fear, and fear changes how people think about survival. Some prisoners begin imagining something that would have felt impossible months earlier. A life in America, hidden, anonymous, working farms. Most never seriously consider it, but some do. The psychology of defeat. Germany does not lose the war slowly, it collapses completely. For years, propaganda promised victory. Even soldiers who doubted it still believed Germany would survive as a nation. By May 1945, that illusion is gone. Berlin is destroyed. Government leadership is gone. Infrastructure is shattered. Millions are homeless. Returning home means returning to chaos. Some prisoners begin asking themselves a terrifying question. If home is gone, where do they belong? At the same time, many prisoners experience identity collapse. For years they were soldiers. Now they are prisoners. Soon they will be civilians in a destroyed country. Some feel relief. Others feel emptiness. Without structure, people search for stability, even if that stability is uncertain or illegal. The daily rhythm of farm work creates a strange contrast. The enemy becomes human. The landscape becomes peaceful. For some prisoners, America begins to feel less like captivity and more like pause. Not home, but safe. And for a minority, fear and opportunity begin lining up. Thought turns into planning. Security and opportunity. American POW camps are controlled but not maximum security prisons. They rely on routine, barbed wire fences, guard towers, scheduled patrols. But routine creates patterns. Farm work creates the biggest security exposure. Prisoners leave camp daily. They work in open fields where direct supervision is sometimes difficult. American planners know the risk, but they also know most prisoners never attempt escape. They are thousands of miles from home. They do not know the terrain. They do not speak English fluently. Historically, most escape attempts fail quickly. But after VE Day, the emotional equation changes. Escape is no longer about returning to fight. It's about avoiding an unknown future. Some prisoners begin studying guard patterns, transport routines, terrain features. Most never act. Some do. The escape attempts. Summer 1945. The pattern begins quietly. One missing prisoner at evening roll call. One missing from a work crew. One empty bunk discovered in the morning. Most escapes are simple. Timing and terrain. Cornfields provide cover. Irrigation trenches provide movement routes. Tree lines provide hiding zones. Some escapes happen during transport loading or unloading. Once outside, survival becomes difficult. Some prisoners carry small hidden food supplies. Some try to remove POW markings. Some try to move only at night. Most avoid contact with civilians.
Rural communities notice strangers quickly. American search responses are fast. Local police coordinate with military. Road checkpoints appear. Dogs are sometimes used. Most escapees are caught within days. Hunger and exposure become the biggest enemies. Some surrender voluntarily. Some are found hiding in barns or forest edges. A very small number stay hidden for weeks or months. Rumors inside camps grow larger than reality. Stories of prisoners disappearing permanently into farmland spread quickly. The idea that tens of thousands successfully hid becomes myth, but the number of attempts was real enough to create fear and legend.
By late 1945, camps tightened procedures, more headcounts, more guards on work details. Some labor programs temporarily reduced. At the same time, repatriation delays increase anxiety. Ships must be prepared. European ports must be repaired. Transport infrastructure must be rebuilt. This waiting period becomes the peak moment for escape attempts. But survival outside the system proves nearly impossible long-term. The real outcome. Most escape attempts end quickly. Prisoners underestimate how visible strangers are in rural America. Small towns notice new faces immediately. Store owners often report suspicious behavior. Prisoners underestimate distance. Fields that look close can take hours to cross without water. Prisoners underestimate hunger. Most food supplies last only a day or two. Civilian support for escapees is extremely rare. Helping an enemy prisoner carried legal and social risks. By early 1946, escape attempts drop sharply. Prisoners realize long-term hiding is nearly impossible. At the same time, repatriation accelerates. Ships begin transporting POWs back to Europe in large numbers. Some are sent temporarily to Britain or France for reconstruction labor before returning to Germany. American policy remains consistent. POWs are prisoners, not immigrant labor. Permanent stay is never an option. Departures are quiet. Many prisoners stand on ships' decks watching American coastlines disappear behind them. For some, captivity had become stability, but return is unavoidable. Return to a destroyed homeland. Returning prisoners often experience shock. European ports are bombed, cities are rubble, refugee populations fill roads, food shortages remain severe. Many prisoners cannot go straight home. Processing centers sort prisoners by region and occupation zone. Families are often missing, homes destroyed, postal systems barely function. For younger soldiers, the shock is even stronger. They left as teenagers. They return as adults to places they barely recognize. Psychologically, many describe captivity as strange stability, predictable meals, predictable routine, physical safety. Freedom in post-war Germany brings uncertainty. First winters are harsh, fuel shortages, food rationing, limited employment. Some former POWs later describe American farmland as dreamlike, not home, but stable. Long-term consequences. By the late 1940s, most POW camps in the United States are dismantled. Land returns to farming or development, but memory remains. Farm families remember German prisoners working harvests, language barriers turning into basic understanding, the strange reality of working beside former enemies. By the Cold War era, West Germany becomes a U.S. ally. Historical reflection becomes easier. Some former POWs write memoirs. Many describe American camps as strict but fair. Historians later confirm most camps followed international law standards. By the 1970s and later, some former POWs return to visit American farms where they once worked. These meetings are usually quiet, not emotional ceremonies, more like shared memory between people who survived the same global disaster. Historical research shows the mass hiding myth was never reality, but the attempts were real enough to become legend. Reflection. War does not end when guns fall silent. It ends slowly, inside people. The story of German POWs on American farms is not really about escape. It is about transition, about the moment between war and peace when former enemies share the same land and see each other as human. It is about fear of the unknown, about the collapse of identity, about survival choices made in moments of uncertainty. History often focuses on battles and leaders, but history is also shaped by quiet moments. A prisoner standing at the edge of a cornfield, wondering if starting over is possible. A farmer realizing the enemy is just another exhausted human trying to survive. Because when war ends, what remains is not victory alone. What remains is the long, difficult process of learning how to live again. And sometimes, the most powerful parts of history are the ones that almost disappeared without anyone noticing.